We are no Jedi.
Hello everyone, I'm Jason, and this is the Screen Time channel. As I promised in my previous video, I want to introduce Ahsoka to those who are not fully familiar with her character and haven't seen all of her related works. Everything you need to know before watching the Ahsoka series will be covered here. As I mentioned in the spoiler-free introduction video, this series is heavily tied to the Star Wars Rebels animation and the Clone Wars animation. Therefore, you need to know the backstory of each character. Before we get into that, if you're still unsure whether to watch the Ahsoka series or not, and what works you should see before this series, I've made a spoiler-free introduction video for this series. Ahsoka Tano, who we first meet in the Star Wars. The Clone Wars animation is Anakin Skywalker's Padawan. We see in the animation that she behaves like Anakin. She's disobedient and brave, and she annoys her master just as Anakin annoyed Obi-Wan. Eventually, they form a very close bond and become like siblings. We see Ahsoka's character grow throughout the 7 seasons of the animation and how she gets better and better with each season. I mentioned that Anakin and Ahsoka have a very intimate relationship, which was one of the reasons for Anakin's transformation into Darth Vader. Something not referred to in the original films but known to those who have seen this animation. You might be wondering how such a thing is possible. Let me explain. We see in the Star Wars, the Clone Wars animation, that the first time Anakin uses the Force for dark purposes is when he tortures Poggle, a separatist leader, to save Ahsoka. This was his first misuse of the Force, and it shows us in the Clone Wars animation how strong the relationship between Ahsoka and Anakin is. Ahsoka becomes an independent commander during these few seasons and leads many battles in the Clone Wars. We see that the color of her lightsabers changes in different seasons as her character changes. One thing we always see in this animation and remains constant is that she always has 2 lightsabers. At one point towards the end of the Clone Wars animation, a big misunderstanding occurs where everyone mistakenly thinks Ahsoka is responsible for a terrible incident. However, it later becomes clear that this incident had nothing to do with Ahsoka, and she was innocent. After this, the Jedi Council who wanted to arrest her tell her to return, but Ahsoka, who had become disillusioned with the Jedi, decides not to return and leaves. This deals a huge emotional blow to Anakin and contributes to his distancing from the Jedi and being drawn towards the dark side of the Force. Something we don't see in the main Star Wars episodes and might be a question for some as to how Anakin suddenly got drawn towards the dark side. Later on, just before Order 66, Ahsoka is asked to return for a mission. She embarks on this mission with some of her clone friends whom she knows well and has shared many missions with. We get introduced to each of these clones' characters in the Clone Wars animation, and it's clear they are more than just regular clones for us. When Order 66 is executed, it deals a huge emotional blow to Ahsoka, who later buries her clone friends there and leaves her lightsabers behind. Later on, Darth Vader arrives there, and seeing Ahsoka's lightsabers on the ground assumes she's dead. However, later on in Star Wars Rebels animation, we see that Ahsoka and Darth Vader have a confrontation where Darth Vader realizes that Ahsoka is alive and not dead as he had assumed earlier. Also, Ahsoka realizes that Anakin has turned into Darth Vader. We will again see Anakin in the Ahsoka series. Well, that's the story of Ahsoka, and what you need to know about her's things that are not mentioned in the Ahsoka series, and therefore confuse the audience. Now that we have enough information about Ahsoka, it's time to move on to the next characters. The first character I want to introduce is none other than Hera Syndulla. We first meet this character in the Rebels animation, where she is one of the Rebel pilots and has a ship called Ghost and a smaller ship called Phantom, which we have seen so far in the Ahsoka series. Hera is a skilled pilot who is on the Rebel front, and after their victory in the New Republic, she gets promoted to general. This character is fully introduced to us in the Star Wars Rebels animation, and we get completely familiar with this character there. But in the Ahsoka series, she is not introduced at all, and this hurts this character a lot. The next character I want to introduce is Chopper, the second charming droid in the Star Wars universe who tries to emulate R2-D2 in Rebels. His movements and actions are somewhat foolish, interesting, and funny, and he speaks in a special way that in the Ahsoka series we see that his voice has a special human-like tone. Although it was not like this in the animation, this droid has belonged to Hera from the beginning, and they have a very deep relationship. The next character I want to introduce is Sabine Wren. Sabine Wren is the same character that early in the series, the mayor goes back to introduce her and calls her name, and we see that no one is there. This character is actually a Mandalorian, and we first see her in the Rebels animation. If I want to familiarize you more with her skills, I must say that her specialty is in explosions and bomb-making skills. In Rebels, we see that she is responsible for bombings in the group, and probably again in the Ahsoka series we will see these actions. And an important thing to know about this character is that she has been Ahsoka's student for a while, and this is something we see inside the series, and it is referred to inside the series. The next character I want to introduce to you is Ezra Bridger. This character was introduced to us for the first time inside the Rebels animation and is one of the main characters of this animation. We see in the animation that he was a child who had a strong connection with the Force, and because of this later becomes a Jedi, and well under Kanan's supervision learns. Kanan Jarrus is one of the remaining Jedi who joined the Rebels. Kanan teaches Ezra how to use the Force and teaches him lightsaber combat. Ezra's first encounter with the Rebel group was when he went there for theft and got acquainted with them this way, and then became a member of them. At the end of Season 4 of animation, as mentioned in Ahsoka's series, he goes missing. In a battle, Ezra and Grand Admiral Thrawn go missing, and everyone thinks they both died. But since we see Thrawn alive inside Ahsoka's series, so probably Ezra is alive too, and we will see him inside this series. There are two other characters who were inside Rebels animation, but we are not supposed to see them inside Ahsoka series. One of them is Zeb Orrelios, and another one is Kanan Jarrus. So far, we know what we need to know about characters who are inside Ahsoka series. I told you a summary of what these characters have gone through so far. Certainly, I couldn't tell all details about these characters which were narrated for us during 4 seasons of animation, but somehow you can understand characters with this summary. I told you. Thank you for watching my video up to here. I'm Jason, and this is Screen Time Channel. I publish videos weekly for introducing and reviewing movies and series. If you liked my videos, I would be happy if you join our small family. Also, I would be happy if you write your opinion about my videos and tell what you like other videos of USB about.